Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into something, well, utterly fundamental, a force that powers every single moment of your day, often operating kind of beneath the surface of your awareness.
Right.
This isn't about tweaking your calendar or, finding new productivity hacks. We're exploring your energy not just as a resource to be managed, but as this elemental current shaping your entire existence.
That's exactly right. And the material we've been exploring describes this energy not as some gentle, abstract concept, but actually as a powerful, tangible force.
Tangible.
Yeah, think of it as the raw fuel of your presence, almost like the engine of your action. Our mission in this deep dive is to really get granular with this force, to understand its nature, to trace its surprising journey through your day.
Okay.
And crucially, to equip you with the insights to navigate it, to sort of command it,
Yeah.
rather than feeling constantly buffeted by its intensity.
Right, not just being pushed around by it.
Exactly. We're going to follow this current right from the very first moments, sensing the day begin through its peaks, its challenges, and importantly, how you can learn to consciously work with it.
And trust us, this current, it shows up in places you might not expect. Seemingly small things, details you overlook, can have a really profound impact on how this energy flows within you. We're going to unpack this sovereign current, understand how it exerts pressure on you, and explore that pivotal shift from feeling like maybe a passive recipient of its flow to becoming its active, deliberate navigator. So let's plunge in.
Let's do it.
That state, right before the alarm goes off,
Yeah.
that kind of liminal space where you're not quite asleep, not quite fully awake, but there's already a sense, a pressure building,
Oh, yeah.
a weight. It's the feeling that the day, the world, your obligations, they're already there, waiting, demanding. The sources we're looking at suggest this isn't just some vague pre-waking anxiety. This is the arrival. It's the arrival of the day's energy.
Exactly. The material describes this initial arrival at dawn almost like a physical phenomenon, like a tidal wave of gravity.
Wow.
It presses into the body, into the mind, before you've even formed your first coherent thought, before you've consciously made your first plan.
Before the to-do list even starts.
Before anything.
Yeah.
From the absolute moment awareness begins to stir, there's this profound, sovereign current pulsing. It's described as being beneath every breath, a constant thrum, even in stillness.
It sounds intense, and it's not just some passive feeling, is it? I mean, what do the sources say about how this force actively engages with us from that very first moment?
They suggest it immediately begins shaping your physical state. It's shaping your posture, influencing how you hold yourself even before you get out of bed.
Really?
Yeah, it's compressing your thoughts, focusing them, sometimes kind of narrowing your perspective towards the immediate pressures. It's tuning your very senses to its rhythm, this relentless pulse of expectation.
So it's like dialing you in already.
Pretty much. The description is powerful. It's not gentle or decorative. It declares its terms. With the sheer weight of unspoken demands, you feel it coiling through your muscles, settling in your mind, even subtly altering how you perceive the space around you. It just is undeniably present and potent.
So it's not just a metaphor for waking up feeling stressed. It's a physical, felt experience of this energy current arriving.
Precisely. And the sources really emphasize its physical manifestation. This current is embodied in every sensation and signal you experience. That tightness you might notice in your chest when the list of obligations rushes in.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
That's the current, anchored right there. That low hum you feel beneath your skin as tasks begin to press for attention, that's the energy. Even something as subtle as a slight tremor in your fingertips as they hover over a keyboard, anticipating the work, it's all part of what's called the living architecture of presence.
Living architecture of presence.
Yeah. This energy isn't just in your head, it's written on your body.
Okay, so it arrives, it's intense, it's physical, and the sources present a pretty stark picture of how we tend to react to it, don't they?
They do. And it feels like a fundamental choice point, really. You can meet this arriving force by trying to resist it, to fight against it, to push back with your will or your ego.
Which is probably the default for many of us.
I think so. But the material is clear. This force doesn't bend to that kind of resistance. It simply continues to flow relentlessly until your opposition is exhausted. Trying to fight it, they suggest, is the fastest path to depletion before your day has even properly begun.
So if fighting is futile and exhausting, what's the alternative the sources propose? How do we deal with this wave?
The alternative is learning to attune to it. They describe a state of surrender, but not giving up in defeat. It's more like yielding control in a different way.
How does that work?
In this state, The body isn't being commanded by a struggling mind or a resistant will. Instead, it becomes deeply attuned to the energy's inherent rhythm and flow. Those physical sensations we talked about, the tightness, the hum, the tremors, they stop being perceived as chaotic, negative distractions.
Oh, okay.
They transform into direct information, becoming the clear language of the current, signaling its direction, its intensity, its needs.
So the feeling in your chest isn't just, ugh, I'm stressed, but more like, okay, the current is pooling with obligation energy here. A signal.
Something like that, yes, exactly. Your mind's role shifts dramatically. It stops trying to be the architect, planning and controlling every detail with brute force. Instead becomes like a mirror, simply reading and recycling the patterns of the energy flow without judgment or resistance. The fight melts away, replaced by the simple, profound act of perceiving and reading the current.
And that's where clarity comes in, when you stop fighting and start reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The sources suggest clarity isn't something you achieve through mental effort or forcing yourself to focus. It emerges naturally when the struggle of the ego, that desperate desire for absolute control, just ceases.
When you let go of it.
When you let go,
Yeah.
when you stop pushing and start listening, this sovereign current isn't a separate, overwhelming force anymore. It becomes integrated into your very being. And here's where it gets really interesting. Intention isn't something you have to layer on top of the current with effort.
Right.
It emerges from the current itself. It becomes a synchronous rhythm where the act of directing the flow and the state of being directed by the flow become one and the same.
Wow.
It's not about overriding the current. It's about aligning with it, becoming one with its motion. It's a subtle, powerful dance.
Okay, that makes sense. So you attune to the current within.
Right. And then, moving from the body's internal experience, the sources introduce this absolutely fascinating idea.
Yeah.
Your physical environment isn't just a static backdrop to your day. It's not just where things happen. It's described as an active collaborator. They call it a living circuit that is constantly broadcasting signals, shaping your focus, and profoundly influencing your energy levels, either draining you or amplifying your potential.
A living circuit, that makes it sound much more dynamic than just, well, a room or an office.
It does, and the sources are very specific about this. They say that every object in your room functions like a beacon, broadcasting its frequency. And it's doing this before you even consciously register it, before you have a thought about the object.
Give me some examples from the sources. What kind of beacons are we talking about? This sounds a bit out there.
Okay, think about a stack of papers on your desk. We've all got those, right?
Guilty.
The material says it's not just paper, it's pulsing with urgency. Its sharp edges a constant reminder of unfinished business, silently demanding attention. Or a chipped mug isn't just a vessel for coffee. It holds the echoes of yesterday's tasks, like lingering energy from past efforts or stresses. Even the angle of your chair, just how it's positioned, is quietly scripting your posture, subtly encouraging you to maybe collapse inwards or prompting you towards a state of command and readiness.
So the environment isn't just containing the energy of tasks, like a messy desk feels stressful, but it's actively broadcasting it, like signals.
Precisely. The sources state emphatically that nothing is silent in this charged field. Each item inscribes its own signal into your posture and pulse and your body. Your tissues are the living parchment where these broadcasts are written.
The living parchment.
Yeah, that tightness you might feel in your jaw. It could be the physical echo of the room's ambient tension, the silent pressure from surrounding objects, that subtle unconscious shift in weight you make while sitting or standing. The sources suggest that could be your body responding to the silent pull of a cluttered corner or an inviting empty space.
So my body's reacting before my brain even catches up.
That's the idea. Before you make a single conscious decision about what to do, your body has already absorbed the room's full testimony. And your current posture isn't just how you're sitting, it's a living verdict on the space's energetic state.
Wow, that's a powerful way to think about it. And it's not just the objects, right? What about light, sound, other elements in the room?
They are absolutely integral parts of this living circuit. Light, for example, is described as carving paths through the space like a celestial arrow. Its intensity, its color, whether it's warm or harsh, it's actively tuning your body's rhythm, influencing your alertness and energy levels.
Okay, like how bright morning light wakes you up.
Exactly, but maybe even more subtly than that.
Yeah.
Sounds too, the low hum of electronics, the distant traffic, even silence itself, they're living frequencies, threading through the air, modulating awareness on a fundamental level before your conscious mind can even identify or label them. And textures are called tactile conductors. The cool, smooth surface of metal can sharpen your alertness, while the warm, worn feel of smooth wood might steady your heartbeat. These aren't just passive sensory inputs. They're actively composing the score for your nervous system.
So the environment is essentially performing a subtle, constant calibration of my entire system, without me even noticing most of the time.
Exactly. This constant calibration, this subtle tuning by everything around you, is priming your body. It's transforming you from what might otherwise be a passive receiver of external stimuli into an instrument ready for kinetic release, a state of potential energy coiled and ready for action. The sources suggest a space intentionally designed or tuned for focus doesn't just quiet the external distractions or calm your mind. It actively works to gather your intention into a fine point, holding it right at the threshold of action. This entire process, they say, is the architecture of readiness, where the environment is subtly forging your physical and mental state long before you've consciously decided on your purpose or task.
And the geometry of the space itself plays a role, like the layout. How does that work as part of the circuit?
Yeah, the sources discuss how the structure of the space matters. Open, uncluttered surfaces, for instance, are described as extending your thought trajectories like unbroken star fields, allowing your mind to range freely.
Okay.
Clustered objects or tight corners can fold momentum into unexpected eddies, disrupting flow or creating pockets of stagnant energy. Even the simple intervals, the spaces between itas, are active participants.
Yeah.
They either guide your attention along a clear path or scatter it randomly. The space isn't just the container, it's an active collaborator in directing your energy and focus.
This makes it sound like our environment is doing all this to us, which is kind of overwhelming, but the sources suggest we can engage with this, right? How do we become part of this collaboration instead of just being pushed around by our messy desks?
Right, this is where the concept of becoming a choreographer of the current comes in. The sources suggest that consciously engaging with this environmental architecture transforms you from a passive subject into an active participant. Simple acts within your space are reframed as rituals.
Rituals, like tidying up.
Exactly, but seen differently. Clearing a surface isn't just tidying up. It's a ritual that carves a channel for clarity, removing those beacons of distraction we talked about. The precise placement of a tool, putting your pen exactly where you need it, is seen as an invocation for the energy that tool commands, a signal to your system about the focus required.
So arranging my workspace is like programming the energy.
In a way, yes. By consciously sculpting this immediate terrain, you are learning to build intentional structures, whether you're building dams of stillness to block out distraction or opening floodgates for momentum to propel you into action.
It sounds like these small acts of arranging your space are actually powerful energy work, much more than just cleaning.
That's exactly the implication. This practice fundamentally transforms you from that vessel being swept along by the environment's tide into a conscious navigator. You learn to read the flow of energy the space is broadcasting and then deliberately adjust the rigging of your environment, the placement of objects, the control of light and sound to harness that sovereign force and steer your course.
Right.
Every object you move with intention, every path you clear is described as an act of co-creation with the invisible, working with the energy of the space rather than being passively influenced by it. It forces you to consider, in the space you occupy right now, are you inadvertently amplifying the signals for chaos? Or are you consciously working to amplify clarity and directed energy?
Will you amplify clarity or feed chaos? That's a good question to ask. Okay, so we've talked about the energy arriving, how the external environment is an active circuit. But what about what's happening inside us, especially in those first moments of the day? The sources really emphasize the significance of that quiet time.
They really do. They describe it as a sacred lull. It's that period in the morning, often before the world's noise intrudes, before the notifications start pinging, when the light might be soft. There's this feeling, for many, of a fragile bubble of calm.
Yeah, that brief window.
Exactly. The sources see this as a fleeting aperture, a suspended heartbeat in the day, a critical moment for deliberate choice.
What kind of choice are we making there?
The choice to orient yourself from within. Stepping across the threshold of that morning lull is described as the birth of a self-love environment. It's a conscious decision made in that quiet space to ground yourself in inner stability, and in doing so, to create clear channels of kindness and nourishment for your energy to flow throughout the day.
It's a self-love environment.
Yeah, It's not about adding another chore to your morning. It's about establishing a foundation of self-compassion right from the start.
And the sources offer a specific protocol or a set of practices for this, right? What are they? They sound quite simple but powerful.
They outlined a simple yet profound approach. The first is dedicating a short time, maybe just 10 minutes, to meditation or quiet stillness. Sinking in, allowing the mind to settle, and importantly, consciously releasing the residue of yesterday's tasks or stresses with each exhale.
Letting go of the baggage.
Precisely. This practice, they say, carves out alcoves of calm within your inner landscape, creating pockets of peace that you can carry with you.
Okay, 10 minutes of stillness. Then what? What's next in this protocol?
From that stillness, the next step is gathering the edges of the day, not through a digital checklist or typing frantically, but by handwriting your intentions.
Handwriting. Why handwriting?
The sources are specific about this physical act. These aren't meant to be rigid demands you impose on yourself, but rather tender signposts, gentle guides for your focus, reminders of what matters most in the unfolding hours. The physical act of writing by hand seems important in the material, grounding the intention in the body, making it more tangible.
Tender signposts. I like that. Not another to-do list to beat myself up with. And the third element.
It's letting gratitude ripple through your thoughts, actively recalling small moments of warmth, kindness, or noticing the simple richness of life around you, however subtle it might seem.
So, counting blessings, essentially.
Yes, but maybe framed slightly differently. These aren't just items to tick off on a list. They are described as blossoms of recognition. Cultivating this sense of appreciation isn't just a feel-good exercise. The sources position it as something more strategic.
Strategic gratitude. How so?
Well, these simple acts, the stillness, the handwriting, the gratitude, are described as the bedrock of an inner covenant.
An inner covenant.
Yeah. Each breath you draw in stillness is an act of agreement with your own capacity, a moment acknowledging your presence and potential. Every line you handwrite is like a line drawn in the sand, a quiet declaration. Here, in this moment, I lead with presence and gentle direction. And gratitude, they suggest, is strategic recognition of the fuel you already possess. It shifts your focus to the resources already within you, rather than fixating on what's lacking or what needs to be acquired externally. It reminds you you're not starting from zero.
It sounds like these aren't just habits. They are building something much deeper, this covenant.
Exactly. This inner covenant, this foundation, is described as being woven from the vibrant threads of your own lived testimony. The sources link it directly to core self-love commandments. Things like valuing your inherent worth without apology, speaking kindly of your journey, even when it's messy or challenging.
Which is hard sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And standing firm in your convictions as the steward of your own heart and energy. It's about building profound trust in yourself through these conscious, repeated actions, affirming your own value and capacity every single morning.
And this isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It serves a practical purpose later in the day when things get crazy.
Absolutely. The material is very clear. These aren't indulgences. They're building tempered steel within you.
Tempered steel.
The logic is that when the inevitable flood of tasks, external demands, and unexpected challenges arrive later in the day, you are standing not on shifting sand, easily swept away, but on the strong, steady foundation of this inner fortress you've built. This self-nurturing practice isn't just for the morning. It steadies the heart for the entire unfolding day, preparing you to meet whatever comes from a place of inner resourcefulness rather than immediate overwhelm.
That makes a huge difference, starting from that place.
It really does. Now, even with that strong inner foundation built in the morning, the sources are very clear. Stress is, well, inevitable. It's an inevitable component of engaging meaningfully with the world.
Right, you can't avoid it entirely if you're doing anything worthwhile.
Exactly. It's not a sign of failure or punishment. Instead, they describe stress as a signal that you are leaning into challenges that truly matter to you. It arrives not as an enemy, but as an instructor.
An instructor.
Yeah. It's framed as a form of polarity, a necessary tension or opposition that is there specifically to test the foundation you've built and reveal its strength.
Okay, so stress isn't the bad guy, necessarily. We've all felt that midday whirlwind, though, right? That tightening feeling maybe behind the eyes or across the shoulders, in the stomach. What do the sources say we do in that exact moment when it hits?
They highlight that this is another critical choice point, reminiscent of that first moment waking up, actually. When you feel that physical manifestation of pressure, you have the option to brace against it, to resist it, to tense up and fight it, and again, that path leads directly to exhaustion and depletion.
The default reaction again.
Often, yes. Or, they suggest, you can choose to lean into it with curious compassion.
Curious compassion. Okay, what does that look like in practice when you're feeling completely overwhelmed and just want it to stop?
The practice begins with a simple but powerful pause. Stop whatever you're doing, even for just a few seconds. Acknowledge the tension you feel, not as an adversary that has attacked you, but as a visitor.
A visitor. Interesting framing.
And the sources emphasize the importance of simply naming it. Say to yourself quietly, perhaps internally, this is stress, this is tension, this is pressure. Just label the feeling.
Yeah.
The material suggests that the simple act of naming the sensation softens the reaction of the alarmed part of your system. It begins to transform the overwhelming barrage of demands from feeling like an unstoppable avalanche into something more manageable, like a series of stepping stones that you can navigate one by one.
So the naming creates space. It stops the runaway train reaction.
Exactly. This pause, this act of acknowledging and naming, is described as creating critical space for inquiry. In that brief gap between the stimulus, the pressure, and your reaction, you can ask a powerful question.
What question?
Instead of reacting from the feeling of chaos, you can listen to what is truly needed in that specific moment. The question is, what does this moment need from me? Not, how do I make this feeling go away, or how do I just muscle through this? But given this pressure, what is the most aligned, effective step right now?
Okay, what does this moment need from me? That shifts the perspective quite a bit, doesn't it? From victim to agent.
It seems to. The sources suggest this mindful engagement with pressure is fundamentally transformative. It converts that abstract, paralyzing feeling of overwhelm into the potential for a concrete step forward. The disturbances, the moments of pressure or stress, stop being mere problems to endure.
They become something else.
They become mirrors reflecting your assumptions and vulnerabilities. They shine a light on old patterns or old wounds ripe for healing, and they simultaneously reveal the resilience ripe for strengthening within you. Stress, when met with this curious compassion, ceases to be an enemy and is reframed as an ally, a teacher showing you exactly where you need to grow stronger or adjust your approach.
The material offers ways to reframe specific challenges using this approach too, like practical examples.
Yes, it provides a few. If you're facing a blank document and feel that rising pressure, it's not a threat. It's a canvas full of possibility. If an assignment feels like too much, reframing it through this lens of inquiry allows it to become just enough when viewed as maybe a creative experiment.
Shifting the narrative.
Exactly. And the sources mention incredibly simple physical acts that can dissolve overwhelm in the moment, like taking 3 slow, deliberate breaths. It's about interrupting the automatic panic response with conscious presence.
So this is really about applying emotional intelligence in real time, isn't it? Using those skills right when the pressure hits.
Absolutely. The sources frame this as weaving a tapestry of resilience, clarity, and enduring grace using emotional intelligence. It's applying self-awareness to notice the tension, self-regulation to create the pause and ask the question, and self-compassion to meet the difficulty with curiosity instead of self-criticism. Stress isn't something to be avoided at all costs.
Yeah.
It becomes the loom upon which this tapestry is patiently woven through conscious practice in each moment of pressure.
And simple physical grounding acts also help anchor you when you feel that pressure building. Just little things.
Yes, they mention these too. When feeling overwhelmed, sometimes the simplest physical action can reset you. Tracing the edge of your desk with your fingers, for instance, is a way to feel firm ground beneath you, a tactile anchor to the present moment and physical reality.
Bringing you back to the now.
Exactly. Lifting your chin slightly, drawing a deep, nourishing breath. These are small physical resets that can pull you back from the brink of overwhelm and anchor you in the present, ready to apply that curious compassion and ask, okay, what's needed now?
We've talked about the morning rituals, setting a foundation, very important. But the sources emphasize that ritual isn't confined to just the start of the day, is it? It's presented as something much more fundamental, woven through the day.
That's right. They describe ritual as the bridge between intention and embodiment. It's how your inner resolve translates into physical reality, how your energy is consciously directed, not just in the morning, but continuously.
And they talk about the ambition for peace. That sounds a bit, I don't know, passive, like something you just hope for.
Well, the sources turn that idea on its head. They don't see the ambition for peace as a soft, passive wish at all. They frame it as a fierce intention.
Fierce.
Yes, a clarion call, a sacred resolve.
Mm.
It's a conscious, active commitment you make to yourself. A promise to not let the external storms of life uproot your inner sanctuary.
Mm.
This kind of peace, they suggest, isn't found by avoiding challenges. It's forged through purpose, through conscious cultivation, not granted by favorable circumstances.
Peace through purpose, not passivity.
Okay.
And this true blamelessness, they mention like not being caught in self-recrimination or ambiguity, that's also built through ritual, not just wish for in a tough moment.
Exactly. This is a true blamelessness isn't something you summon in a moment of crisis by wishing you'd done things differently. It's quietly forged in the steady cadence of daily ritual. The morning meditation, the deliberate act of journaling your thoughts and feelings, spending time with comforting passages or reflecting on your values, these are described as profound acts of self-love and emotional attunement. Even those midday grounding acts we discussed, like tracing the desk edge or taking those breaths, are micro-rituals. They affirm your intention to cultivate peace and presence, showing yourself, through action, that you are actively nurturing this state. So ritual builds the foundation, yes, but it also prepares you for the challenges. It strengthens you for the inevitable storms.
Yes, this is where polarity as teacher comes back powerfully. The storms, the moments of tension, conflict, or pressure aren't just random difficulties. As we discussed, they are instructors, specifically testing the foundation you've built through your daily practice.
Right, testing the tempered steel. Exactly. But if you are standing on that solid ground, in a state of clear conscience and intention from having cultivated this ambition for peace and self-love, the sources suggest these tests deliver breakthroughs. Meeting conflict or inner turmoil not with resistance, but with that curious compassion we discussed earlier, softens its destructive impact and transforms unrest into possibility.
The disturbances become useful again, not just things to get through.
Precisely. In this light, disturbances truly become mirrors. They reflect back your deepest assumptions, your foundational vulnerabilities that need tending, the old wounds ripe for healing, and also the resilience ripe for strengthening. Chaos isn't an enemy to be avoided at all costs. It can become an ally, guiding you toward crucial self-discoveries that you might miss in times of smooth sailing.
So cultivating inner peace through ritual isn't just an end in itself, like feeling calm. It's actually a force multiplier. It helps you achieve more.
That's the core idea. Peace, when nurtured daily through these intentional practices, becomes a catalyst that can ignite your personal greatness. The rituals, the breath, the journaling, the gratitude, the mindful pause are both the kindling that starts that inner fire and the anchor that holds you steady when polarity inevitably tests you.
Kindling an anchor.
Yeah. They ensure that each surge of tension, each moment of pressure becomes the spark for your next breakthrough, pushing you forward, rather than a blow that weakens your resolve and sends you backward into reaction.
By standing steadfast then, blameless in your conscious intention and rich with the self-love cultivated through these daily practices, you fundamentally change your relationship with disruption. It stops being something that derails you and becomes the very force propelling you closer to the aspirations you hold and the growth you're destined to claim. You become both the navigator and the vessel of the tide. That's powerful.
It is. So wrapping up this exploration, just think about the journey of energy we've traced together, based on the material we've explored today. We started with understanding its powerful, physical rival at dawn, that sovereign current. We then saw how your physical environment isn't just a backdrop, but a living circuit, constantly broadcasting signals that affect you, consciously or not.
Right, the beacons.
We explored the critical importance of building that inner covenant through conscious morning rituals, the stillness, the writing, the gratitude.
The foundation.
We delved into how to convert daily pressure and stress from an enemy into a catalyst for breakthrough by meeting it with that curious compassion.
Amen.
And finally, we saw how ritual, in its broader sense, serves as the essential bridge to embody your deepest intentions and navigate life's challenges effectively.
Yeah, and it feels like this isn't about layering complex systems onto your already busy life. It's definitely not another set of time management tricks or productivity hacks. It's deeper. It's about engaging with the fundamental, elemental force that fuels you by making deliberate choices and committing to conscious practice.
Exactly.
Your environment, your first moments of the day, your moments of stress and tension, they aren't just things happening to you. They are actual opportunities to engage with your energy differently, to consciously work with this current.
And the power, as the sources emphasize again and again, lies in the small, conscious actions. Clearing a surface with intention. Taking that 10-minute pause in the quiet morning. placing a lamp in a way that serves your focus.
Mm-hmm.
Handwriting intentions, not as demands, but as those tender invitations to guide your energy. Turning towards stress with curiosity instead of automatically bracing against it. These are not insignificant acts. They are the subtle, powerful ways you become the author of your own motion, deliberately shaping your experience of the current.
And finally, consider this thought. Building on that idea of polarity as a teacher, revealing your foundation and your resilience. Given that challenges test you, how might the greatest pressures or conflicts you face today be precisely the fuel you need?
Yeah.
How might they be the exact opportunity required to reveal a strength, clarity, a resilience that you didn't even know you possessed? Look for that possibility, that potential for breakthrough, in the energy of your own unfolding day.